Hello there, very good evening and a warm welcome to the news live on Rupavahini Channel I. I'm Sharon Masquinius.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Javed Bongzo and we begin with the headlines of tonight's news.
Prime Minister says he believes that no issue will arise over the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. New housing scheme for estate communities in parallel to line houses. Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa states the Easter Sunday attack could have been avoided if the previous government directed attention to his statement. School children to receive uniform material once again. Excise regulator taken into custody along with Mandi illegal drugs. More than 50% of the global deaths report from the US, Brazil and India.
On to the stories in detail now, starting off with local news. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that in his belief, no issue will arise over the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. The Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa made these remarks during a meeting held with the news directors and news editors of electronic and print media organizations today. During the meeting, the Prime Minister responded to the queries raised by the media personnel. Responding to a query raised on his stance over the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that he maintains the stance of the government and no issue will arise over the draft bill. He said that each party has appointed committees in this regard and these committees have conducted extensive studies on the amendment. Sharing his comments, Minister Udaya Gammanpilla said that the sole stance of the government will be presented to the country. In responding to a query raised on the transformation of Prime Minister's post into a nominal post, the Prime Minister said that in his belief such issue may not arise from this move and Prime Minister has the opportunity to either excise the vested authority or not. The Prime Minister, responding to a question over the crisis occurred in the markets over coconut and turmeric, said that the necessary measures were introduced in an attempt to encourage the farmers to engage into such cultivations. He said that if the government decided to import turmeric, the farmer communities would have given up on the cultivation. He said that the turmeric cultivation in the country has been commenced and steps have been taken to further develop the cultivation. Therefore, he said that the country will have to bear with the prevailing difficulties to achieve the set objectives. Responding to another query raised over the ban on the importation of vehicles and vehicle spare parts, the Prime Minister said that permission has been granted to import vehicle spare parts and the opportunity has been granted for those who have requested permission to import vehicles. The Prime Minister said that measures have been taken in keeping with permanent solutions for eradication of drug menace in the country. Responding to a query raised over the extradition process of former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran in connection to the alleged bond scam incident, the Prime Minister said that investigations have been initiated in accordance to international laws. Parliamentarian Attorney-at-Law Premanath C. Dolavatta mentioned that the present government, similar to the previous government, will not interfere with the judicial procedures. Ministers Kelly Rambukwella, Vimal Veeravansa, Udaya Gammanpilla, Douglas Devananda, State Minister Susi Premajayantha and Secretary to the Prime Minister Gamini Senarath were present at this meeting.
And in more local stories, the Supreme Court commenced considering the petitions filed against the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution today. A total of 39 petitions have been filed before the Supreme Court against the proposed 20th Amendment draft. The consideration of the petitions filed against the draft bill of the 20th Amendment took place in the presence of Chief Justice of Sri Lanka Jayantha Jayasuriya along with a 5-member Supreme Court bench. At the beginning of the consideration, the Attorney General Dapula de Oliveira informed the Supreme Court today that the government has decided to add several amendments, revisions to the 20th Amendment to the Constitution and the committee stage in Parliament. The attorney representing the petitioner, Attorney-at-Law Indika Gallage, emphasized the requirement of a time period in order to consider the newly added revisions to the drafted bill. The Attorney-at-Law Suren Fernando, representing the parliamentarian of Samagi Janabalavege Ranjit Madhuma Bandara, affirmed that a referendum is required to pass certain provisions included in the draft bill. Further consideration of petitions against the 20th Amendment draft bill to the Constitution postponed until tomorrow by the Supreme Court. Reviews about the 20th Amendment draft bill were discussed at the media briefing of the cabinet decisions at the Government Information Department held today. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Kehelia Rambukwala said that it is necessary to focus on the country's need for the 20th Amendment as per the issues and concerns pertaining to the 19th Amendment. He also specified the previous government's instability of maintaining the 19th Constitution without any revisions and emphasized on the differences between the 19th Amendment and the reality that was brought to the public. Moreover, Minister Kehelia Rambukwala said that the issues posed to the general public by the 19th Amendment have been addressed by the 20th Amendment.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa emphasized the necessity to construct residences for estate workers in close proximity to their existing line houses upon providing houses for the estate community. A project of constructing 4,000 houses is being currently operated by the funds received by the Indian government. As essential infrastructure facilities are already provided for the people living in estates, the President and the Premier added that the ease of constructing their new residences in close vicinity to their line houses would allow them to experience these benefits without wasting time. President made these remarks during a meeting with the Ministry of Estate, Housing and Community Infrastructure Facilities to review their future vision at the Presidential Secretariat today. The construction of 4,000 houses for the estate people commenced in 2016 with funding from the Indian government. A total of 669 houses have been constructed in the last 5 years under this project. The officials claim that the practical issues in supply of infrastructure facilities delayed the construction. President Rajapaksa stated that it was important to uplift the lives of the estate community without having to shift their current habitats. President noted that the construction plans for these new houses should be supervised by the State Engineering Corporation to ensure high standards and better quality. President Rajapaksa said that in addition to the government measures to promote the living conditions of the estate people, private estate companies should also fulfill their part of responsibilities for a remarkable outcome. The President added that the importance of liaising with line ministries including health, education, agriculture, housing and sports and take measure to uplift the living standards of the estate community. President stressed the necessity of developing preschools, primary schools and medical centres in the estate sector. There was also a lengthy discussion on the importance of providing vocational training to estate youth so that they can obtain NVQ level certificates and guide them to find employment opportunities. President noted that 438 estate health centres should be taken over by the government and quality service should be provided for the benefit of the estate community. Plans mooted to promote tourism in Bandaravilla, Hatton, Nuwara and Alla was also discussed. President emphasized that all development activities should be carried out without delineating the estate and the village. State Minister Jeevan Thondaman, Secretary to the President P.B. Vijayasundara, Principal Advisor to the President Lalit Veeratunga, Secretary to the Cabinet and State Ministries and heads of several line institutes were also present at the meeting.
And the business sector indicates that the first trustworthiness of investors has been ensured towards Sri Lanka upon the successful mitigation of the COVID-19 outbreak of the country. The chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Viraj Daratna, said that the growth of 34% in the sales of the Colombo Stock Exchange after resuming transactions in May exemplifies the trust ensured by the government on the investors.
Sri Lanka has always been a resilient nation in the face of adversity and has once again proven this quality in the face of the deadly COVID pandemic. The stock market has performed way beyond expectations and the S&P 20 as well as the ASPI has gained significantly, outperforming regional markets. This demonstrates, I would say, the confidence that the investors have placed in the economic policies that have been adopted during these difficult times and holds good for the future prospects of the country.
In other stories, speaking before the Presidential Commission yesterday, Parliamentarian Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said that if the previous government directed attention to the statement made by him in the Parliament over the alleged recruitment of individuals of this country for IS terrorist organization, the Easter Sunday attack, destruction of the United National Party and the loss of the governmental power would could have been avoided. Meanwhile, recording a statement before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, the Easter Sunday attacks, parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman said that in his belief, a powerful operational force was behind Zahran Hashim, who coordinated the Easter Sunday attacks. Parliamentarians Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and Mujibur Rahman were convened together for the hearing in accordance to a request made by Parliamentarian Rahman to cross-examine Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa over a statement made by him before the Commission. After Parliamentarian Rahman recorded a statement before the Commission, Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa inquired whether the Easter Sunday attacks could have been prevented if the attention was directed on the statement made by him in Parliament prior to the 30 months before the attacks. In response, Parliamentarian Rahman said that he also made comments over potential extremism and lodged a complaint with the police over Zahran following the Digana incident, claiming for Zahran's arrest as he was a threat to the national security. MP Rahman also claimed that an invisible force backed the protection of Zahran as DIG Nalaka De Silva, then head of Terrorism Investigation Division, was taken into custody through an individual, Namal Kumara, at a time when he had obtained an open warrant for the arrest of Zahran from the Colombo Magistrate Court. The parliamentarian cited that the Muslim community in the country had no such issues to resort to such heinous actions, and this incident led to the condemnation of the Muslim community in the country in the eyes of the society. President's Counsel Shamil Pereira, representing Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, inquired Parliamentarian Rahman the legitimacy of a report shared on an Indian website claiming that the parliamentarian was aware of the attacks as cited in A. In response, Parliamentarian Rahman mentioned that his assigned security officers were informed by their superiors prior to the incident, but he was informed in this regard following the incident. Responding to a query raised by the Commission, he said that the Muslim parliamentarian of then government were not informed in this regard prior to the attacks, though the relevant information was presented and discussed in a National Security Council in 2015 and 19 and at the intelligence coordinating meetings. He responded positively after he was inquired whether the 2015 and 19 government is responsible for the failure to prevent the Easter Sunday attacks. The parliamentarian was also questioned on one of the terrorists behind the attacks, a suspect named Zahra, who had fled to India with the recent past, and his comments to extradite her into the country. Parliamentarian Rahman in response said that the suspect has been identified as the wife of Hastun, one of the terrorists responsible for the attack at the Katua Pitia church. He further said that the present government has a great responsibility to extradite the suspect Zahra from India, as the suspect would be able to reveal information pertaining to the responsible entities for the Easter Sunday attacks. He was then inquired over the affiliations with the individual named Noordin Mohammed, who was taken into custody after hiding blunt weapons in a mosque in Slave Island area. In response, the parliamentarian said that the individual is a Colombo urban UMP councillor and he had known the individual for nearly 10 years. He said that the individual had kept the blunt weapons for protection following the Digana incident. Subsequently, MP Rahman was given the opportunity to cross-examine parliamentarian Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa by the Commission. MP Rahman claimed that Dr. Rajapaksa had mentioned his name when he was reading out a list of individuals connected to extremism while recording a statement with the Presidential Commission on a previous occasion. Parliamentarian Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said that he had also read out the names of former MPs Hizbullah and Azad Sali, and the statement of the November 18, 2016 was delivered responsibly. He added that MPs Mujibur Rahman and Rajitha Senaratne objected his statement in Parliament, which can be considered as a supporting an act of terrorism while paving the path for such a disaster. The parliamentarian said that if the previous government had directed attention to the statement made by him in Parliament, the Easter Sunday attack, destruction of the United National Party and loss of the governmental power could have been avoided.
And the government says a total of 10 state-of-the-art large-scale dairy farms are set to be initiated in the country. The aim of this initiative is to fulfill the country's dairy requirement from the local productions by encouraging local investors. With the aim to fulfill this objective, the government is expecting to direct new local investors for the dairy production in the country during the coming years. A meeting was held with the head of Presidential Task Force for Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation, Basil Rajapaksa, and investors at the Temple Trees yesterday. More than 85% of the country's dairy production requirement is being fulfilled by small and medium-scale dairy farms. Bringing forth new dairy farmers are also expected through this initiative. The Board of Investments are expected to provide concessions and encouragements over the investors in this regard. In addition, the government had taken steps to provide government lands for the cultivation of maize and various types of grasses. The priority will be given to the investors with appropriate resources and facilities for the operations of the dairy farms. 9 plantation companies have agreed in this regard. The head of the task force, Basil Rajapaksa, has requested the investors to apply for unutilized yet cultivatable state lands. He also pointed out that the government institutions will extend their support in resolving issues pertaining to the development process of dairy product sectors. Ministers Mahindananda Alutgamage and S.M. Chandrasena's State Minister Kanaka Herath were present at this occasion. Head of the task force, Basil Rajapaksa, recently engaged in an observational tour at the Vatavala dairy farm initiated using dairy cattle imported into the country from abroad under the Divinaguma project. The farm consists of 1,000 dairy cattle, which produces approximately 17,000 litres of dairy milk per day. A total of 27,000 kilograms of maize is required as animal food per day. Maize farmers have been given to earn improved revenue through the preparation of the entire maize plant as animal food using special technological mechanisms. Head of the task force, Basil Rajapaksa, said that an additional revenue can be earned through the production of methane gas using the animal excrement, since a great attention has been directed on the carbon-based farming.
Meanwhile, the government has decided to issue clothing material for school uniforms. Accordingly, the existing issuance of vouchers methodology will be abolished. The Cabinet of Ministers also decided to purchase the total amount of clothing material required for school uniforms from local manufacturers. These announcements were made during a media briefing held to announce the Cabinet decisions at the Government Information Department today. The approval of the Cabinet of Ministers was granted on June 10 to provide school uniform materials for local manufacturers instead of vouchers for school uniforms. Relevant procurement process has been initiated accordingly. Only 4 local textile manufacturers have submitted bids, and they have already produced close to 40% of total textile requirement. It has been confirmed that by the end of January next year, they will be able to meet the local requirement. Considering the facts presented by the Minister of Education on providing school uniform materials, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal to take necessary measures to purchase the total school uniform material requirement from local manufacturers and to provide school children with uniform materials instead of vouchers. The Cabinet of Ministers have granted approval to establish a trust fund for the collection of funds to carry out the renovation and conservation activities of the Digava Pitya Temple. The supervision of these activities will be carried out by the Presidential Task Force on Archaeological Heritage Management in the Eastern Province. The Cabinet of Ministers have also granted approval to impose a ban on cattle slaughter in the country. The government will take necessary measures to import the required meat quantities at a concessionary price for the people to consume beef. Implementing a suitable program for aging cattle which cannot be used effectively for the agricultural purposes is also included in the proposal. Meanwhile, a discussion had taken place over the issues and concerns related to earthquakes and landslides.
When we were discussing this cabinet paper, we discussed in length the risk faced by the people and what are the action to be taken by the government. Cabinet will advise NBRO. There was a decision.
We now take a look at the coronavirus pandemic situation from around the world. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide has surpassed 33.5 million, while the death toll exceeded 1 million mark yesterday. Meanwhile, World Health Organization has announced global partnership to make available 120 million affordable, quality COVID-19 rapid tests for low and middle income countries. The United States, India and Brazil remain the most affected countries, leading the world in both confirmed cases and deaths. Brazil has the world's second highest COVID-19 death toll after the United States and the third largest outbreak behind the United States and India. The global death toll has shown that deaths in the US, Brazil and India make up nearly half that total. The development came nearly 10 months after news of the coronavirus began to emerge from Wuhan, China. Meanwhile, efforts to develop an effective vaccine are continuing, although the World Health Organization has warned that the death toll could hit 2 million before one is widely available. The US has recorded more than 7.3 million cases, more than a fifth of the world's total. After a second wave of cases in July, numbers dropped in August but appear to be on the rise again at present. The US has the world's highest death toll with over 209,000 fatalities. The coronavirus has been spreading fast in India, with the country recording about 90,000 cases a day earlier in September. Confirmed infections in India have reached 6.1 million, the second highest after the US. However, considering the size of its population, India has seen a relatively low death rate. Brazil has the highest number of deaths in Latin America and has recorded more than 4.7 million cases, the third highest in the world. Latest tallies show that nearly 1.5 million people in Africa have been confirmed as contracting coronavirus, with around 35,000 deaths. Globally, over 240 potential vaccines are in early development, with 40 in clinical trials and 9 in the final stage of testing on thousands of people. Vaccine development normally takes years, yet with the global emergency, scientists are working at breakneck speed. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has said that a $5 worth test has been introduced which could diagnose COVID-19 in minutes, while dramatically expanding the capacity to detect cases in low and middle income countries which have shortages of healthcare workers and laboratories. Lengthy gaps between taking a test and receiving a result have hampered many countries' attempts to control the spread of the virus. A deal with manufacturers will provide 120 million tests over 6 months. The deal covers 133 countries, including many in Latin America, which is currently the region hardest hit by the pandemic in terms of fatality and infection rates.
A woman in Ampara claims that she has found her son who went missing following the deadly 2004 tsunami. It was a successful culmination of the 16 years of search carried out by the mother. Abu Salih Siti said that her 5-year-old son went missing after the tsunami hit Maligai Kadu in Karaithivu in Ampara in December 2004. She told reporters at her residence yesterday that she never stopped looking for her son after he went missing, and she was later told that he was seen at a local hospital. However, when she visited the hospital, she learned that her son had been taken away by a Sinhalese family. The woman said that she continued her fight to locate her son and had very little support from the police or the Human Rights Commission. Eventually, in 2016, she received information about her son being seen at a school and attempted to visit him to confirm his identity. However, she says the school authorities refused to allow her to meet him. She had later established contact with him, promising him employment, and later revealed to him some unique marks on his body. The boy, who now can speak only in Sinhalese, told reporters that he is convinced the woman is his mother and is happy to be reunited after 16 years.
Welcome back, and we continue with more local stories now. 3 suspects, including an officer attached to the excise department, have been arrested by the intelligence unit of the STF yesterday in possession of 653 grams of an expensive drug named Mandy. The raid was conducted in Kaluagala, Avisavela. The parcel containing the narcotics was seized while investigating a vehicle which was travelling from Kaluagala to Labugama by setting up an instant police checkpoint. STF said that following interrogations, they had arrested another suspect in the Pahatgama area. It was revealed that the drugs were given by an officer attached to the Excise Department of Sri Lanka in Sri Jayawardenepura. The drug was identified to be used in drug parties held at luxury hotels. Several mobile phones were also seized by the suspects. A suspect in possession of 11 grams of heroin was arrested in Boralla area following a tip-off received to the Organised Crimes Eradication Unit. The police revealed that the suspect is an associate of the drug smuggler identified as Gauss in Avisavella. The suspect was identified as a three-wheel driver and had purchased drugs from Gauss and smuggled them in the surrounding areas of Boralla. And the Army Corps arrested a suspect along with a consignment of 946 kilograms of turmeric stock hidden in Kondachi in Mannar. The 8th Battalion Vijayabahu Infantry Regiment troops operated under the 54th Brigade and troops of the 3rd Commando Regiment had operated a raid in the surrounding areas.
The funeral of the late Tennyson Correa, who was one of the best-known comedians in Sinhala cinema, will be held on Thursday at 4 p.m. at the Moratumula Methodist Church graveyard. Tennyson Correa, who was born on the 31st of April 1952 in Moratuwa, was a past pupil of Methodist College, Moratuwa. Being an actor and a director of cinema, stage and teledrama, Tennyson Correa first entered the cinema world with the film Peralikario. The first movie directed by him was Thank You Bertie, which was screened in 2011. The body of the late comedian is now at his residence at Moratumula.
And a ceremony was held today on behalf of Susantika Jayasinghe for commemoration of 20 years of winning an Olympic medal. It was organized at the Uduwaka College premises in Kagala. Susantika Jayasinghe said that today was a happy day as the day she won the Olympic medal in the year 2000. She said that she wore the medal once again. In addition, she said that she feels proud and happy on the Gamata Kridava Rate Sanvardhanaya manifesto. And that's it for tonight's news. To watch us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.